If you're seeing this reading today, we have 3 angel numbers. If your soul feels expansive looking at any one of those 3 angel numbers, then stick around. We have a message for you to help you move out of stagnancy, to take actionable steps towards a new goal. My name is Claire. This is Path of Spirals Tarot, and today we'll be working with the Alchemy deck from the Wild Unknown, aka Kim Kranz. We'll be following this structure for this spread. Our first card will be an initiatory card, otherwise known as the Door of Initiation. The second will be the Door of Fortune. The third, the Door of Resistance. And the fourth, the Door of Destination. Without further ado, let's get started. Group 1, my angel number 222. Let's get started. We'll be opening up the deck here and calling in highest source energy, angels, archangels, totem animals, ancestors that are here to help guide you while you're here on earth. Any other energies that are protective and bring the immaculate vibes, we call all of that in. We put a crystalline dome over the reading to keep sacred information and downloads in, and low vibrational frequencies out. These cards are a little bit difficult to shuffle, so let's spread them out like this today. That's how I feel called to do this. We're looking for the Door of Initiation. This is the first step to take. It must be done before everything else. Even if you would rather avoid it, this card may remind you of a person, a situation, a memory, or a dream. 10. Looks like it's associated as well with Jupiter. Keep it in your mind's eye. The next card will be the Door of Fortune. This is the door you will then be led into. Here you'll find a new fortune, interest, or boon, treasure. The red and white rose. The next we're looking for here is going to be the Door of Resistance. I sense it is somewhere in here. Winter, a season. And then lastly, we're going to need the Destination card. I think I see it in here. Your destination is ash. These fit in the frame, so like that, and we can just put these other cards away. Already, right away, I see a couple different motifs coming out of the cards. One in particular is grief, processing grief, and being present for those who may be processing grief and loss of a loved one. For another, I'm seeing hermit energies. I'm seeing an introspective moment, and I'm seeing a union between spirit and the body physically. If these are resonating with you, then we're on the right track. The very first card we have here is one of the 22 elements that are included in this deck. This is tin. Now tin, as we see here, there's the Jupiter sign on this card up here. Tin is associated with Jupiter because tin is everywhere. It's very expansive, it's very malleable, and it's crystalline. At the same time, it buckles under very minimal pressure. And when it buckles, it makes a sound when it crinkles. Think about the crinkling of tin foil. Think about the crinkling of tin foil and the sound that it makes when it's under duress. This card, as an initiatory card, right, we're talking about the first step that you will take. It's what you must do before everything else. And this card might remind you of a person, a situation, memory, or dream. This card is asking first and foremostly to check in with yourself. Are you moving too quickly? Are you bypassing some of the feelings that you're actually having in your body? It's about movement without honoring the past, because we'll have a card here that's going to talk about honoring and sitting with the past memories. There's a trying to move on before a time when somebody is really ready to move on. It's people, maybe external environments are saying you need to just get on with it, move on with life. But there's things that need to be sacredly processed. And this spread is saying don't listen to people or energies that are trying to force you beyond the pacing that grief does take, or just like a very different, difficult life transition, okay? That the processing of that takes the time it takes, and we wouldn't rush it. Otherwise we have to go, the saying that goes, make it nice or make it twice. Grieve it once nice or grieve it twice. Okay, that's our first card. It's an element. The next card is one of the 22 mysteries in this deck, the red and white rose. I want you to notice how, although there is a coalescing of white and red, they don't blend to make pink. They remain entirely in whole and of themselves. There's a snake and there's a rose, and they're also slightly different species, right? So this card represents a vital force, something of an arising, awakening. But this is something of an exquisite moment. And also within the doors of wisdom reading, we have the second door, which is the door of fortune. This is a door you will be led into when you honor your process of grieving and processing information, okay? It's where you'll find your new fortune, interest, or boon. So when we see this, there's a spiritual alchemical process whereby the spirit and the body meet one another and work within union of one another, but they don't really fully become one another. The body is the body, the spirit is the spirit. But think about your physical body being a gateway to the spiritual, and that the uniting of the body serves the soul's purpose. Think of dancers, athletes, or the birthing process. So there's a moment here that you can get more in touch with your body. This card signals to me somatic healing. The first card, tin, also is associated with the liver. So you might want to look at maybe a yin deficiency in the liver if you're into TCM. Liver, spleen, kidneys, all three of those get hit the hardest when you're going through grief, stress, and high cortisol moments. Spirit wants you to know that you need to honor your body as a temple every single day. Remember that your body wants nothing other than for you to thrive and to stay alive every single day. And if you've been going through a difficult moment, please know that however your body is reacting. I'm also seeing like medical, this could potentially be like maybe you're medically kind of fighting your body. You might have a very sensitive body, haven't exactly found the right route with how to handle your body's reaction to stress, and are maybe bypassing the potential spiritual elements that are at play. So this card is your reminder, and it's a fortune. This is where you're key to find the answers you're looking for to your pain and your suffering. They're in here. Okay? So how can you tend to your body every day? You can not only feed it well, sleep well, consult yourself holistically, but you can also take time to spiritually be in touch with what you need. And these later cards are also going to encourage that as well. And to see that your body is obviously like the most immediate manifestation of anything spiritually is coming through your body's reaction. And that's constant. And sometimes we forget that. We think our body is just a separate thing. It is extremely tapped in. It's impossibly intertwined with the spirit. You have neurons all over your body, So something tells me that here life has happened, fractures happened, an impact has happened, and now your body is starting to process it, and this is showing me there's just been this difficulty with the shock waves and with how your body is trying to do damage control. I'm seeing a bit of that. But ultimately, you'll only be doing yourself more of a disservice if you resist the reality of that current situation. Which brings us into the third card, which is associated with the Hermit in traditional tarot. This is a seasonal card called Winter. There's 4 seasons in this deck, obviously, but winter is associated with pausing, solace, sitting still, being indoors, being introspective, following your own North Star. Notice this giant North Star in the tree. And also, the tree in hibernation gives such an important lesson to humans. Many animals are in hibernation, but trees do so much to hunker down in the wintertime. And this is a natural progression that what you're ultimately going to find here when you listen to your body is that you're going to need more parasympathetic activation, kindness, slowness, not rushing. And these cards are telling me that this is going to be a privilege that's afforded to you to actually take that time and to take that beat. The wintering process is a very important alchemical process. In winter, we are meant to be more still. We are meant to rest. There are important healing and restorative facets that come with the wintering. Once you have come to a realization of these cards, it's very natural that you might start to feel like you're going more internally with this wintering card, okay? Being suspended in Mother Earth's paws. But also, you can see this as a portal. If you've ever done shamanic journeying, I have shamanically journeyed, and oftentimes my portal is within a tree, and I go inside the tree and I become one with the tree. Tree medicine also comes to mind here. If you're looking to, sometimes if you don't really know how to release somatically, if you don't have meditation or trance work, EMDR, you don't have psychosomatic tools at your disposal readily today, you can go out and put your forehead on a tree and hug the tree, lean all of your weight into the tree, and what you might find, just like how the sap gets pulled up from the roots in spring and springs forth out of the tree, you might find a lot of emotions rise up out of your spine, almost like a kundalini rising, or just like this somatic release. So don't be surprised if you lean up against a tree and you get emotional. Trees also love hugs from us. They live, laugh, love a nice hug. Tree magic is something you might want to look into. That's what I want to say about that. But prepare for a time of having to slow down before you speed back up again. And then the ultimate card here we have in our Doors of Wisdom spread is ash. Now, ash is, again, one of the materials, and it's about kind of being silken. It's about the quality of ash. Ash is extremely, it can be very good for your plants. For example, I take ash from my fireplace and I put it in my plants and they grow really well. The remnants of ash after you've burned, saged in your house, or Palo Santo or an incense, for example, can actually cleanse the air of bacteria. But the quality of ash itself is very light and silken. So the door of destination is what ash is representing right now. So think of this as a vision of the future possibility. So it might be somewhat hard to relate to this card right now in some facets, but consider it as a planting of a seed, okay? It's something that you can eventually take steps towards, and once you do, this card will maybe hit you in the back of the head and be like, oh, that's what that was all about. It might be elusive, or could be you get something of a general inkling about what's going on. Just apologies if you hear a little bit of background noise as I'm doing this reading. I have a neighbor upstairs and it sounds like he's on the phone, but so long as I keep yapping, I think it's going to be picked up more than anything in the background. But ash represents memory, ancestors, and the past. You can think of this card as sort of like a dusting of ash going on top of all of the other cards, and in that way somewhat subtly changing their meaning in time. So this means that once you've kind of reached the other side of these first three cards, you'll be able to look back at the raw feelings that were evoked from this reading, and you'll see more wisdom, and it'll be more settled, and you'll see these lessons you're going through as something of a spiritually initiatory experience, because ash also represents what came before it. You might think of cremation or ancestors and those who came before you. And this card recommends or encourages you to tap into ancestral energy. If that's never something that's really exactly crossed your desk, consider it actually something of a rite of passage as we age, as we start to get more interested in where we actually come from. This is or past relationships, people who've maybe passed on to another realm. And this is also something that does feel resonant for me, is because these cards are indicating something of a grief process that you've been going through potentially, that this card is asking you to reconnect with a past loved one. Part of the healing process is actually about creating a new type of connection with them once they've passed on. There's this sublimation energy when a person rises to another dimension. They're still present, they're just not physically here, but they have other more subtle ways of communicating with us. This card might also be encouraging that as well. Okay, so that's about all I have for our reading for group 2 today. All right, group 2, my 333 angel numbers. We're going to pull our 4 cards for our Doors of Wisdom reading. We'll pull our first card, which will be the Door of Initiation. I'll explain more what each of them is as we pull them. The second will be the Door of Fortune. The third will be the door of resistance, and the fourth, the door of destination. I already feel the door of initiation is going to be this one. And we have rotation. Ooh, it's giving mandala and a spider. This is going to be where you're starting, the first step to take. It has to be done before everything else, even if you'd rather avoid it. This card might remind you of a person, situation, memory, or even a dream. Up to you. That's our first card. Next, we need to pull for the door of fortune. Feel my spirit guides are saying which one would go well with this. Okay, I'm feeling under here. It's hard to shuffle these, so I'm just laying them out flat. Okay, the door of fortune. This could represent a treasure, fortune, new interest coming your way. The sun. Okay, something coming through your consciousness. This indicates that there's something that's been on your mind that you've been already wanting to do. The fortune this is almost like a card that's trying to reinforce the hunches you've been having. It's already been illuminated, but maybe the actions to take around it have been a little bit vague, or maybe other things in life have been going on that you haven't had time for it. The third card will be the door of resistance. I see the door of resistance here. This is going to represent the new depth or challenge. Your ego and your willingness to continue will be contingent upon this card. And look we have one called the despicable face, one of the 22 mysteries. So we will explain more about why that might be a challenge, but that does sound like a challenging card already, just looking at it. Okay, and then our last card will represent a door of destination. This is a vision of the future possibility. Might be hard to relate to this card, but eventually you might take the steps towards it when things come more into focus. So this card might feel somewhat elusive, almost waiting for you to meet it. And that will be one of the 22 elements, which is sulfur. Group 2, what I'm seeing here already, I see somebody who is fastidious when they actually get to work. I see somebody who has a lot of fire, someone who has a really good idea of what it is that they want to do. Like whatever is here, the stagnation is not in your physical capabilities to take action and to put effort into something, especially if it's something that you like, you're really clear on what you'd want to do, why you would want to do it. That's not the issue where the stagnation is. The stagnation is actually something on a more energetic, spiritual level. There is a fear of failure for you here in group 2. That's just what Spirit is saying. A fear of failure and a fear of confronting things that you would rather keep hidden. The problem is, / your solution, really rather, is that you're going to have to face whatever it is that feels gross, that doesn't feel like you, or a part of you that you would never want other people to see. You have to at least address that privately. And it's likely that you fear it's going to really stink, which is why we have sulfur as like our destination card. Sitting with something that stinks but is also therapeutic, okay? Because sulfur is both beautiful and therapeutic and also stinky and gross. So there's a beauty in that healing, okay? Let's dive into each card more deeply. So our door of initiation is the first step to take, right? You have to do this before everything else. My feeling is, group 2, you're already in the phase of moving and doing something. I feel you've been laying the groundwork in a sense. You've been, at least at the very, very, very least. My question is rather for group 2, what is it you've been exactly putting a lot of mental focus and energy into with this card? You know, a spider is weaving a web. And, you know, what we see usually is the end result. It's not so often we sit and we watch the web be woven. It's rather we see it in the corner of a dusty room long after the spider has passed. You know, so from the outsider's perspective, what are people seeing from you? What kind of output is actually coming from what you've been envisioning? That's what I'm curious about. Because it could be you're weaving a different web right now that is a little bit more tangled, twisted, and out of alignment, especially when I see the despicable face and sulfur card coming. What web and narrative are you telling yourself? What you know, rotation also talks about like a mind kind of spinning. What spinning and racing thoughts are you potentially having that you maybe need to become aware of and transmute into something else? That's what I'm curious about. Okay? Now, for the next card, we'll have this Door of Fortune. What we're fortunate about is that there is something in your life that you want to take action on, a new project, a painting. I'm seeing a lot of artistic work here potentially. Building. I'm seeing somebody building like a potion stand for their kids. I'm seeing a tree house. I'm seeing I'm seeing, and when I get that, I feel like it's like you're building something that can be like a legacy for your children, for example. So that doesn't have to be your actual family. It could be, but it also could represent there is something that you want to do or that you keep thinking about doing that you know will have a lasting impact beyond just you being here on earth, okay? And this is a very yang centered card. The sun is yang masculine energy. The sun is a very penetrative thing, right? Thanks to the ozone, or like the layers of our atmosphere, we don't get obliterated by solar radiation. So having a lot of yang and having a lot of fire. Something tells me too when we look at all these cards, there's a lot of red, orange, and yellow. Emphasis on red. But this card in particular is all about like the doing card. You know, sun is that sacral, the solar plexus chakra, right? So this tells me that you have a very good idea of what it is you want to do. But there's something here where the sun, if we have too much yang, but we don't have enough introspection, we're just kind of getting burnt. I'm feeling like there's a lot of fire at play here. And it seems like you might also have like the antithesis of the issue that I have to pay attention to when it comes to traditional Chinese medicine. People who are deeply in touch with the spiritual realm, do tarot work, trance work, dream work the way that I do, we actually have a huge yin energy inside of us, but we can struggle with yang deficiency. And so you have to see yourself kind of in this binary between, are you like a sympathetically driven person where you kind of thrive by being activated? That would be like yang energy. Men tend to be more yang, yang in the sense. Women can be, because not, gender and hormonal expression is a little bit of a spectrum. So it's more about like, are you one of those people that can do? You could work all day. You could I'm getting like somebody who can work like a horse. Work like a dog. You don't have any problem with that. But when it comes to this sort of yin, high priestess, internal energy, it's something that you avoid a little bit. The depths of the subconscious might be a little bit intimidating to you, and it's okay. Like if you are somebody who's sympathetically driven, you have a lot more natural yang energy. You never have to force yourself to be like a yin driven person. Like you either are or you're not. But you can envision that you need to get a way to sort of create this sort of bubble of water around all of your fire. And that's going to be through supplementing a little bit more yin energy. That yin energy is also going to help you with these two other cards because you have a couple of doozies here. A couple of doozies to get yourself feeling right, okay? But when we have yang, but we don't have a little bit of yin, then we are burning ourselves out. So this card is also asking us, is now the time to keep pushing the way you have? Or is it maybe time to take a little step back and rest and just like rejuvenate? Something tells me like these two cards together are giving a lot of action, but not having the solid psychological foundations to bring to fruition what you're envisioning. And it would make sense. I feel like there are a couple pain points that are trying to visit you that could have come maybe even from childhood. Because what I sense you want to do, if you want to do something that's going to have a lasting impact outside of you, you have to do things that will have a lasting impact inside of you. That's what these cards are saying, okay? So the despicable face represents the parts of you that you don't want other people to see. And don't we know everybody has them? If you look at your astrological chart, you can check and see all sorts of different placements that indicate where you hold shame or where you learn difficult lessons, okay? You can check where your Scorpio is. You can check to see what's sitting in your 8th house, 10th, 11th, 12th houses, for example. Check where your Chiron is. If you ever go on and just look at like an astrological birth chart, that can give you some better vocabulary for what might be stewing. Something tells me you might not be the person that works with archetypes and like understands the alchemical true significance of archetypical information like this, how it actually impacts you physically it feels like that might be a little bit more difficult for this group. And you sort of trust other people to do it for you. So I'm saying, I'm consulting you. That's a way for you to kind of go pay attention to, like, go log into some astrological website, AstroSeek when the AI bots get off of it, Astro Charts. There's a couple different astrological apps. But have a look around. Check and see, like, which facets of your chart indicate lessons and healing that you have to do. Check where your south node has been and where's your north node going, for example. But yeah, this despicable face card is just the epitome of like, oh, if anybody knew this one thing about me, they wouldn't even want to know me. Everybody got like a little bit of that to some degree, okay? So at least know that there are people who have been through stuff that they never want to bring up again. Like, you couldn't waterboard the information out of the person. That's what this card is bringing up. Is like, but you have to face it. So this is what's not only hidden, it's what you also don't really accept about yourself because you feel so much shame. But you have to ponder this idea of acceptance being a form of enlightenment. And imagine, that everyone really has their own version of this, okay? It's human. It's interesting. It's not just disgusting. And also know that once you do address it, like, this whole energy is going to be a finely tuned machine. You will be rotating on the right, you'll be rotating in the right orbit, it almost feels like, and then the sun won't burn you. Now, sulfur, this is going to be our destination, our door of destination, which it can have a varying amount of like enigmatic energy where like you don't really know what it means. But I do feel like this card is relatively straightforward. It's almost a reinforcement of the third card that what you will face, what you will address here is going to be a bit difficult, but that sulfur has healing properties when it smells bad. Okay, this is the only thing from this book that I actually wanted to read to you in full because I felt like you might derive something from me reading the whole passage. I had a good intuitive inkling of all of these cards. However, this one, sulfur, is one I do think we could derive something from. And you can keep this in the back of your mind as the days, weeks, months wear on, okay? So on an esoteric level, sulfur is the first of what is known in alchemy as tria prima, the three primes. Along with salt and mercury, it makes up a threefold phenomenon that symbolizes the uniting of our soul, sulfur, body, salt, and mind, mercury. On a tactile feeling level, sulfur is responsible for both the off-putting smells and the therapeutic properties of a mineral bath. It soothes and it stinks, literally. To understand sulfur is to embrace a both-and mentality. Do not be discouraged if the meaning of this card seems to evaporate before your eyes. For now, keep in mind that what is gross contains beauty, and what is beautiful contains its own demise. Sulfur's job is to push the geyser up and out, dissipating the pressure. Don't be surprised if what appears to suck or stink soon becomes a great gift. If the sulfur card appears with any others from the Tria Prima, it's a sure sign that the link between them is underway. Oh, we didn't pull anything else for the Tria Prima. So don't worry about that. Envision what is geyser-like in your life right now. What needs to move up and out to be freed so it can evaporate. That's also just like a mental exercise you can do, is visualize that you're at Yellowstone or someplace where there are a lot of geysers, or Reiki, Iceland. Imagine standing in front of the geyser of your psyche and see to what degree is that geyser exploding, what's coming out of it, what associated feelings do you have with it, and read it symbolically. You can also like journal about it. If you are interested in trance work, you can keep the geyser in your mind's eye if you ever do any type of vertical work like that, or sit in meditation and journal about what your geyser feels like and get a good visual. Now, this is a long-term card. This is not just about what's happening tomorrow. So it likely seems you are initiating yourself into doing some type of shadow work, which I have in my bio. I have a free shadow work worksheet if you'd like to have a look at that. But yeah, it does stink. It does stink to feel things. And that's kind of what you've been avoiding. You know that it stinks to feel. But to feel is human, and to feel is also freedom. You are also not weak. You are strong. I think a lot of this energy here indicates that you take a lot of pride on being the one that shows strength physically and doesn't want to show weakness. like the yin energy is associated with like emotionally like crying and things like that, but know that the tears keep the devil away. And true, if this is also for a man that like is hearing this, you know, or somebody just who has a lot of masculine, like you pride yourself on coming off as like extremely masculine in certain ways. True masculinity is actually paradoxically in being in touch with your inner yin feminine energy. It's not just being the sun all the time. Then it burns everything around it, okay? I feel like this is a pretty good pulse on this spread, so thank you so much for tuning in with me, Group 2. I'm going to move on to our last group, Group 3. Group 3, 888. Let's do your reading, the Doors of Wisdom reading here. 4 cards. These are difficult to shuffle, so we're going to just spread them out, and we're going to talk about the reading a little bit and pull our cards. The first card we're going to be pulling is going to be a Door of Initiation card. This is what you have to do first before anything else, okay? We have, ooh, the moon. What do we do? The moon's like, I don't know. I don't know. Nothing is what it seems. Whenever you pull the moon, you're like, what does it mean? That's what you got to do first. Okay, let's see. It'll make more sense. The next door is going to be the Door of Fortune. A boon, a treasure, a gift, something that's on your side as you go through this card. It's going to be Iron, which is associated with Mars, war, action, moving, taking information and doing something about it. Okay, how are you going to take any action when you don't know what it is? Maybe I'll pull another clarifying card. We'll get there, okay. The next is going to be the Door of Challenge. This one. Your challenge is going to be Uranus, sudden changes. Something's going to change. It's going to be difficult for you to accept sudden change or rebellion. The Door of Destination is going to be the Sun's Splendor. The Sun's Splendor. All right, Group 3, I see that you are already, there's a transformation already underway for you. I feel that this spread is just trying to articulate that, validate that for you, and give you some tools and reminders as you pass through this sort of portal. Or I'm almost seeing like passing through the underworld a little bit here. Now, what the Door of Initiation being the moon represents the way that information is being presented to you as you enter into this phase is one of symbolism, and it cannot be forced through logic. This is through the symbolic mind. This is why oftentimes the moon gets the rap for being like the bad rap, quote unquote. It gets the rap for being things not being what they seem, not really understanding it. Well, if we are that, people get confused if they're looking through just a strictly logical literal lens. But if you use a more symbolic metaphorical lens and just kind of surrender to what comes up in your mind's eye, that is the wisdom that's coming with this card as everything else unfolds. Okay, so that's what's initiating you, is this symbolic energy. And something tells me this might be something of a difficult thing for you to integrate. You might feel a little bit confused at me saying that, because your Door of Fortune, what you have on your side is somebody who's really good at being reliable, outward facing, laterally moving, and like Mars is all about taking action in the world. You have this sort of reliable structure, but that structure is only so compatible with symbolism in the moon. Mars and the moon, they're both, despite them being cosmic forces, they're different and they represent different facets of our lives. Okay. So although this can be good for you, you have to assign this Mars energy inside of you. You have to assign it the role of discernment and not control. All right, because what's coming is another cosmic force. It's a lot of cosmic planetary shifts. Uranus is going to bring about some type of awakening. The more you like lean into this moon energy, the more, you're going to see this Uranus energy suddenly pop up out of nowhere. Uranus is about a surprise, a transformation, something about this Mars structure getting shaken a little, destabilizing. But in the end, we have this, one of the 22 mysteries of this deck is the Sun's Splendor, which still implies something of a cosmic force. This card is all about giving and being in a place to want to give more. So I do read these cards together as there's an integration process going on, whereby if you surrender, be aware of what the advantages and disadvantages of your gift are with this iron energy, then you can ride out the wave of whatever Uranus is bringing your way, and you will be more integrated and radiant than you were. I mean, the Sun's Splendor card, we should get a closer look at that. I mean, you have a diamond rainbow. You have some sort of, crystalline outer mandala. We have, tropical flowers along the coast with birds. So there's a lot of air, there's a lot of water. I feel like, and there's a bit of fire because it is about the sun. The only thing that's missing is earth, which you definitely have in iron here. But this card is almost highlighting, I guess plants could be earth a little bit. There's a little bit of each, and we do have like this green up top. I do feel like this card is trying to emphasize something of a balance with all four of the elements, but I do feel what's popping out to me is all three of these kind of being most manifest in this card. So by that I mean I'm really focusing on the water, the fire, and the air. But with that in mind, I think that the Sun's Splendor really is a beautiful card to get. It's such a positive, optimistic card. It's a very reassuring card. It's the kind of message where even when you look at it, it kind of fills you up with warm fuzzies inside. I'm always pleased to see the Sun's Splendor coming to visit me when I do readings. Now, how could we apply this to certain facets of your life? If you're anticipating a relationship, it's about surrender through symbolism and divine timing, and allowing, if you see some type of destabilization coming in your life, it might be redirection. And that within that relationship, you might be something of a stabilizing force between the two of you if you're more of like an iron energy. So think about a complementary energy that might be coming in. If it is a career, I would read this as maybe shifting out of a career, some type of symbolic heads up, a sudden change. It could be promotion. It could be something because you've been so reliable that like there's a type of promotion coming because the outcome is really positive. So we might see this as just like a pay raise, some other type of responsibility, a shift in roles at your job. If you're not currently employed, we could read this as gaining some type of employment, but that you have to just allow it to come to you. I think it's less about being on LinkedIn and trying to connect with people and more about trying to be in alignment with who you are and what kind of day would be the most ideal for you given your energy, right? Once you can accept that, then you might find something pops, sort of falls into your lap. If we are to read this also through a fertility lens, I do see a lot of indications that this could be a successful pregnancy, because the moon often represents fertility, things being unseen. This could indicate somebody who is pregnant but they don't know it, or they're about to become pregnant. That the person who's been trying to become pregnant has been trying to rely on information to become pregnant by like eating the right foods, not getting stressed, also like talking to the father, the donor, to make sure that they're healthy so that the placenta is healthy and that you have the least amount of morning sickness possible. That the Uranus also being the sudden surprise also indicates like a life force coming in as well, and that pregnancy ends up being everything you would have wanted it to be and more. Also, this card indicates to me that you're the kind of person that will take every step you need to make sure that the pregnancy process, the birthing process, and the postpartum process run smoothly. So I do see somebody who's in a place receptive and ready to provide and to take care of themselves during that process. There's been something of an anticipation there, but all these cards could indicate that. Yeah, but everything is kind of about a shift, things beneath the surface, elements at play that you couldn't have anticipated, but your surrender and using discernment within your earthly energy, your earthen energy, allows for this change and for you to ride out the change and to come out on the other side with more than you had in the beginning. It ultimately is a progression to a more net positive outcome for group 3. Okay, that's all I really have for Group 3's reading today. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, group 1, 2, 3, groups 1, 2, and 3. Thank you for tuning into today's reading. My name is Claire. This is Path of Spirals Tarot. You can find me here on Path of Spirals Tarot. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Path of Spirals Tarot. And, if you're looking for a shadow work worksheet, I have a free worksheet that you can download to Google Drive in my bio. Also, check out my other playlists. I have playlists of shorts, of other long form readings that span from everything from shadow work, medicine woman work, shamanic work, releasing energy, energy tune-ups, getting rid of energy stagnation. My readings often center most around self-advocacy and alignment so that you can get to where you want to be. I'm a life coach of 10 years, so I have been transmuting that energy into giving readings and really loving the medium of doing that. I give 5 readings a week. I do long forms Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and short forms Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you like that kind of reliability, then feel free to subscribe. If there was any reading you listened to on my channel that you think another friend would really benefit from, that's definitely spirit trying to get a message to them. And sharing is caring. So if you really enjoyed being here with me, the best thing you can do is just subscribe and follow along the journey. I've been doing this for just over 1 month. And I think I have really upgraded and integrated information and found the way to do this from my very first video. So it's been a fun transition to get from where I was to today. All right, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.